And trans women are individuals who choose to live their lives as women, and I honor them.
Oh shit.
Everyone deserves dignity and respect, and I mean that. But at the same time, there are...
Everybody deserves dignity and respect, you know? I'm just not going to literally respect your actual identity and going to assume it's a choice. Okay, yes, lady. Please continue with your virtue signaling.
Evident to me when both of y'all came up and talked was how indoctrinated into the patriarchy you are. Is a direct result of patriarchy and the systems that feminism is trying to dismantle.
Oh my god, okay. Helpful hint, if you're arguing with a bunch of anti-feminists, using words that sound to them like buzzwords, bad idea, okay? Because the minute you do, the conservative brain is just gonna shut down, okay? Windows XP shutdown noise, doo-doo-doo-doo, and then they're out, okay? You're talking to a brick wall from there.
Justifies being a feminist today is you must just want to get laid. There's no reason to believe in all of these crazy things that seek to strip you of your masculinity, perpetuate these terrible ideas that men are evil and all of these things. That has to be the reason.
Middle ground. Headbang!
Step forward if you agree with the prompt.
Wow, I really like that opening music, you know? It was like, how are you a feminist unless you just want to get laid? Metallica. All right, hell yeah.
Women have it easier than they think they do.
Oh boy.
With feminism, it's kind of brainwashed women to think that they are victims in 99% of cases, and all the disenfranchisement that they would claim in like colleges and careers. A lot of these careers are way easier to get into for women than they are for men because they're looking to hire women because of feminism.
Yeah, like in divorce and stuff, they get more property, the kids' rights, all that.
Yeah.
But more so, I think
What? Okay, so this is just false already. The whole notion that like women divorcing always win and get to take everything is actually just bullshit. All available research that we have analyzing the outcomes of divorce finds that women lose significantly more. Their net worth goes down significantly. So a 2009 study was conducted in the UK. They found that the incomes of separating husbands rise immediately and continuously in the years following a marital split. The differences between the sexes are stark, he said, but this is not so much a gender thing as a parent thing. The key differences are not between men and women, but between fathers and mothers. He found that when a man leaves a childless marriage, his income immediately rises by 25%. Women, however, suffer a sharp fall in income. Now, this is another article here from America. This is according to the U.S. General Accounting Office. Women's income after a divorce fell by an average 41% after divorce versus 23% for men. So there's still a decrease, at least in America, if you're getting divorced. It's going to cost money. It's going to be expensive. Maybe you have childcare, child support, or whatever. It's not like a walk in the park for men. However, this idea that women are just going to win every time and that they can divorce and take everything is just nonsense.
Well, yeah, because with women, they're born with their value. They innately have value. They can create life and they're extremely valuable from birth. For men, it's not really the same way. You have to make something of yourself to be respected.
exactly. Like a pretty woman can go far just using, a man can't go to a rich businessman or like a businesswoman and be like, I'm good looking, let me come to your yacht.
Right.
A woman can.
Right.
Let's bring
Yeah, women sometimes can get certain privileges if they're pretty, I guess. I don't know. Is that like, there's also a lot of downsides that comes with that, right? It's not just like women are privileged because the pretty women get to go on a rich guy's yacht because she's pretty. It's also like she's getting catcalled consistently. Sexual harassment is constantly being thrown at her when she's just trying to walk down the street to get her bagel. Also, there's something else to be said. If a woman is invited onto a yacht because she's pretty, how often does that dynamic get taken advantage of? How often is the woman sexually harassed? Maybe even worse, pressured, expected to do something sexually to return the favor, kind of? It's certainly not the same as just, well, I'm pretty, so I get to go on yachts all the time. I don't know. I've just never heard that argument before.
I think it was you who said, women already have their value. Their value is already obvious because they can have children. I don't want to put you into a box, but there are large amounts of men. Women are people that have children and then they raise the child and they be quiet.
And I think
That is a
Not at
problem.
all.
I think what was really evident.
Okay, so I must have missed that argument earlier, but this idea that the value of a woman is already within her because she can have children is bizarre. What if she can't have kids? What if she doesn't want to have kids? Is she now worthless?
Evident to me when both of y'all came up and talked was how indoctrinated into the patriarchy you are, right? You both come up and say, as men, we have to prove something. And those expectations that you put on yourself is a direct result of patriarchy and the systems that feminism is trying to dismantle.
As are the values.
Men and women are
Oh
both
my God. Okay. Helpful hint, if you're arguing with a bunch of anti-feminists, using words that sound to them like buzzwords, bad idea, okay? Don't show up there and be like, you have been brainwashed by the patriarchy. The patriarchal expectations of the microaggressions have, no. Take a deep breath, chill, explain what you want to say in a way that you're not required to use buzzwords, okay? You can say that for a long time throughout history, there have been certain expectations placed on men, and a lot of those expectations were originally propped up and even introduced by other men. So sometimes these expectations can harm men. Of course, it can harm women as well, but these negative expectations are a lot of the times hurting men, despite the fact that they're also being propped up by some men. That's literally, I just said there's patriarchy affecting men, just without saying patriarchy, because the minute you do, the conservative brain is just gonna shut down, okay? Windows XP shutdown noise, doo-doo-doo-doo, and then they're out, okay? You're talking to a brick wall from there.
equal under God and in value as human beings. In Genesis, you have creation of both.
Whoa,
men and
come
women are both
on. So now we have an anti-feminist and we got a Christian on here? Man. Whew. Okay, let me go back here. I might miss some heavenly bullshit here.
That feminism is trying to dismantle.
As are the values that women had that when they were born that you're talking about. Women did not create those.
Right.
Men did.
Those are God ordained. Men and women are both equal under God and in value as human beings. In Genesis, you have creation of both men and women that are made in God's
We're
image.
not about
we
to
are
quote the
both-
Bible on like some feminist
Hold on,
topic.
but so
I mean, we
We're
can.
operating in a-
I love that guy in the background. We don't have to quote the Bible in some feminist topic. Dude, what are you doing? Josh, sit down, okay? Youth group is over.
country where there's a separation of church and state, you cannot use religion as a
and the Bible
motivation
also
to
doesn't
make
tell
legislation. If I hear one more person use religion as a reason to not give rights to people, I'm probably gonna fucking explode. People using their own personal ideologies as an excuse to implement legislation over other people's lives are simply just not okay with the fact that they can't control everything around them.
Holy shit, Tucker. Tucker, my man, calm down, okay? I am literally strapped with a fucking explosive device. If anybody cites the Bible again, I will pull the pin, okay? We're all going out, bitches.
I don't think that women have it easier than they think they do. And I think to just make blanket statements like women in society think they have it easy or men in society have it harder or whatever you want to say, I just think it's kind of naive. Sure, maybe some women think they have it easier, but that might not be because they're a woman. It might just be because of their own set of life challenges and vice versa.
Yeah,
I feel like even the question is kind of bad. It's not, do women have it easier? I think that men and women both face unique challenges because of the fact that they're men or women. I don't know if it's like women have it necessarily easier, but I also don't know if it's just men have it easier. I think that men have it easier in some things. I think that women have it easier in some things, but I also think that women struggle in places where men don't always struggle. A great example of this is subconscious bias. Now, I understand that I kind of just broke the rule that I just said because subconscious bias sounds a little bit like another lefty, wokesy buzzword. However, it is true that we all have biases, subconscious biases, that are shaped just based on our upbringing and partially because the human brain naturally gravitates towards establishing patterns, even if those patterns are not actually based in reality as far as broader statistics go. However, it's true, though, that subconscious bias can play a negative role. So, for example, they've done some studies where they found that women, when applying for jobs, if they are moms, so if they have kids, they are offered less salary during the job interview process. Whereas if you have a man who has kids as well, he's actually offered more of a salary. And not just more than the woman, more than another man even would have been offered if he didn't have children. So this idea that women just have it easier, men just have it easier, it's not really that black and white. It's far more that women struggle in different regards than men. And subconscious bias is one of them. There is a bias in a lot of people, even if they don't realize it, where they perceive women as being a little weaker, or if they get really assertive, then they're kind of being bitchy, you know? Why don't they just sit down, bro? It's this kind of nonsense that is reinforced subconsciously, and this has real-world consequences for women. Whether we're talking about hiring, how they're treated in the workplace, even how people perceive women in general.
I am so passionately anti-feminist is because I believe that feminism pits men against women. Men and women may be equal today, but they are not the same. But also, too, women are under a pressing assault today in this country. They're losing their ability to compete in sports, beauty pageants, also just basic things like that to people that identify as women. And no one is talking about it. Feminists aren't talking about it. So now you have conservatives having to fight for women's equality in
You're making some pretty blanket statements saying feminists don't care about it. And you say, you think that all women just are against men.
To answer your question, yeah, you're talking about women. Women are not all feminists. Yeah. There are plenty of feminists who are very anti-woman. You know, you saw it during in the political era where you have people who will attack Kayleigh McEnany and Kellyanne Conway because they aren't pro-women. They're not for the girls.
So there's so many problems here. First of all, it's built on a faulty assumption that if you're a feminist and you say you support women's rights or women's rights to equality, that means you must blindly support every single woman, even conservative women who potentially are advocating against women's rights. Second of all, the trans people in sports conversation, I should have known this was going to happen, but I didn't. Truthfully, I didn't. I didn't see it coming, okay? I was blindsided. I don't know if it's fair to be like, women are losing their rights to sports kind of thing. But I mean, the conversation surrounding trans sports is definitely a pretty complicated one. And I'm not a very big fan of this sort of blanket, since trans women are women, they should be allowed to compete in sports against cis women. If you don't agree, then you are a bigoted, transphobic piece of shit. This is a stupid way to go about it. There are obviously going to be some biological advantages if you have gone through a male puberty, and you can be just as valid in your identity as a woman, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there are very likely biological differences that can contribute to an unfair competition. So, I mean, that's something to talk about, but again, this is a nuanced conversation. Acting as if women are losing their rights to sports is just, that to me sounds bizarre. I don't know where somebody has a right to play sports.
When you talked about the pressures of being a man and having to provide and having to prove your value as a man, I think those are real challenges that men face. That's why women have it harder too, because they are also being impacted by how aggressive men feel like they need to be able to secure the role that they have to play in society. But the reality of today is that because of the systems that we're in, the patriarchy is negatively impacting not only women, but also men.
There's no...
Damn, okay, that guy was better than the rest of them. At least he made slightly better arguments, but I still felt like that fell flat. Explain what exactly is hurting men, and then maybe avoid the P word, okay? Don't say it.
I haven't always understood consent in intimate relationships.
Oh boy.
One of the problems is consent is not always clearly communicated, and I think that's one of the things that has kind of been weaponized against men, whether the woman wasn't excited about it, or she didn't like the guy, or she was drunk, or all these things that they can use to remove their consent and their responsibility in that. It would ruin the romantic image of that guy if he asked to kiss you, or if he asked to have sex with you at every single point.
Yeah. My experience with it has been a little bit different. As a black kid, I was taught that if you engage in a romance with a white woman, it's a possibility that she might falsely accuse you of something. Yeah. So I've always been, I guess you can say hyper-consensual. Mm-hmm. What that has done for me is it has revealed the bullshittery that is all these backdoor cuts that men act like women take to accuse them of things. It's super.
Okay, so I don't know why we had to bring the race card into this. The first guy said some weird stuff. I mean, what do you mean if she was drunk? You realize that if the girl's drunk, you probably shouldn't have sex with her. Don't do that. And even if she's all over you, I think in a case like that, the smart thing to do, don't have sex. Just don't do it, man. Just don't. Because if she's drunk, you don't know how drunk she is. You don't know what if she's blackout drunk? What if she wakes up the next morning and doesn't even know what happened? You don't know, and I don't think that that's a good risk to take.
Possible to never engage romantically with a woman in a way that she doesn't want. It's not even hard.
There's enthusiastic consent. You shouldn't want to feel like you're talking somebody into something or they are okay with it. Right. You have sexual encounters with people that want to have the sexual encounters, that are excited about it, and that's something that I do think gets lost. Consent.
Okay, so I agree with this guy. I like the direction he's taking, where they just flashed the little text blurb there a second ago too. Enthusiastic consent is less about avoiding them saying no, and instead really making sure that they say yes. It's not just, well, she never said no. She never said stop. That kind of mentality is not a good one to have. It should be more so, she said yes. She said she wants to be doing this.
One more thing, really encounters that are excited about it, and like that's something that like I do think gets lost. Like consent. One more thing, really quick. I know young men that like definitely didn't want to have sex as much as they were, and they were men, but they feel like they had to. They don't, and it's like these things. Like it's informing young people. Like even though you don't want them to have sex at a young age, you have to inform them of it because they'll do it wrong if you don't.
It's baked into our culture from the music that we listen to. It's in porn. It's a dominating culture. When you go into a relationship, these are the things that you see, so you try to enact on that. Consent doesn't make you any less of a man. Consent is really creating the safety for the other person to mutually just be down for it.
Okay.
Honestly,
so far, I think that they're I like the feminist arguments in this one a little bit better, for sure.
I didn't really hear anything that I disagreed with over here. It's just the only thing in this conversation that I worry about is lack of accountability. Because a lot of times, you know, women or man, doesn't matter what your sex is, if you're engaging in sexual activity, you can pretty much signal that it's consensual, and it can get confusing. But then if a woman or if a man doesn't verbalize it and then they go back, they confuse consent with regret. And I've seen that a lot in court cases or just throughout our culture.
That's where the coercion thing comes, right? And like the context around, like the context surrounding, like if they were to say no, would they have been safe? Would there have been repercussions?
But
Are you putting them in a position
where
where
or is that on the woman? Because if they agree,
it depends on the situation.
Unless they were raped.
Like the Harvey Weinstein thing. Like if any of those women say no, their careers are ruined.
Right.
They're in danger because they're
that is
like so.
totally
It's the context. I don't think that false accusations, especially for sexual assault, are anywhere near as common as people want to make them out to be. And I think the much bigger problem in day-to-day.
That's true. It's it's very, very minuscule when we're talking about false allegations. It just doesn't happen very often. I mean, actual rape is underreported. So false accusations of rape are even smaller, even lesser.
Life is the consent issue, not the false accusation.
That's undermining it though, because you guys haven't gone through it. Saying that is okay is not.
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that in terms of what's a bigger issue that we need to worry about.
I think there are some nuanced issues that you have to pick a side, and I'm picking women not getting raped over men not getting falsely accused.
But that isn't.
I don't think that
those aren't mutually exclusive, and it's a shame that we live in a world that's so black and white that you can't balance the interest of those who are victims, true victims, and also those who are falsely accused. One false allegation of rape, sexual assault discredits a lot of other real ones in people's eyes. It ruins the lives of people who are true victims of getting their cases heard in a fair and positive light.
I think what we're all circling around is that what we need in our society is comprehensive sexual education. Yeah. And I think the topic of consent needs to be just as important as the topic of protection.
Yeah, Josh spitting right now for real.
We got raped more.
Male feminists are in it to get laid.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely in this to get laid, okay? I tell my wife that I'm a feminist all the time. She's like, oh, you're making me enthusiastic.
I'm excited for this one because I don't like women sexually, so this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
What? Oh, I didn't realize that guy was gay. Okay. That's good.
I think that if you are a straight male, the way you view women subconsciously is always going to have something to do with sex.
Right.
On just a fundamental level, just in nature. Now, that might not be the whole premise, but I do think that it has something to do with it.
Yeah, I think again, the problem with these statements is they're general. I think there are men out there that are predatory and are posing as feminists to get into the pants of women.
And even on a more micro level, so I was literally just watching a recent Jubilee video, and it was one about a man. He was a self-proclaimed pickup artist. And this is almost a direct quote of what he says. He goes, "Oh hell yeah, I fuck with feminism."
You know, I like to think I'm a feminist. I fuck with feminism.
And I think it's kind of emblematic of there are men that don't understand the full gravity of how people who are real feminists feel about the situation. And they kind of see it as this cool, hot social issue. And if I talk about it, it puts me in the group of the good people. And I don't think it's always heinous, while there are people that are doing that. Some of it's just such blatant ignorance that they lack the understanding.
Yeah, I think
that guy made that was a good argument there for sure. I like this guy. I think that he's doing pretty good.
The posing of the question is indicative of the truth of the matter, that I think a lot of the time it is that, because if you align yourself with a lot of the more traditionally toxic masculine traits and you're not viewed as on team woman, then you're not going to be in line with a lot of Western women in today's society.
I have a few friends.
I mean, the best thing though about hooking up with a feminist or whatever is that because she's all about equality, she can peg you and she won't feel weird about it. I'm not saying I know that from experience or anything. It's just really cool, you know?
go to these parties and they're like, oh yeah, fuck Andrew Tate. They all watch them, but they'll be like, oh fuck Andrew Tate, just so they can get laid because they know that's how a woman will feel like, oh wow, they're listening to me, or oh wow, they agree with me, and feel a little more connected.
Yeah. And I think for me, as someone who believes genuinely in the fact that men and women are equal, but I don't go around parading myself as a feminist, because the only thing that I could think that justifies being a third wave feminist, being a feminist today, is you must just want to get laid, because there's no reason to believe in all of these crazy things that go after your identity as a man, that seek to strip you of your masculinity, that perpetuate these terrible ideas.
What do you mean strip you of your masculinity? I never understand this either. Most likely he's talking about toxic masculinity, where, again, if this concept were just explained better to people, then there would be a bigger understanding that when we say toxic masculinity, nobody's saying that masculinity itself is toxic, but rather there are toxic expectations that we associate with masculinity.
Men are bad and evil and all these things, that you can't be a provider, you can't be a protector, all these things. I think that has to be the reason. Like, you have to.
What? Where are they saying it's bad to be the protector? Hold on, what?
Things that you can't be a provider, you can't be a protector, all these things.
Yep, that's the feminist narrative right there, okay? Yeah. All right? The feminist ladies, they're jumping up. Don't you dare fucking provide for your family, you toxic man. What, you think you're gonna go to the factory and slave away at the conveyor belt till your fingers are bloody to provide for this family? Shut the fuck up, toxic boy.
I think that has to be the reason. Like,
some of us don't identify with, me personally, I don't identify with masculinity. I might show masculinity, but like, I don't think feminism is taking anything away from me.
But I think that's a societal problem, though. The fact that masculinity itself has become a dirty word is a problem.
I didn't say it's a dirty word. I'm saying it doesn't
Why
matter.
do you choose not to identify with it anymore,
Wait,
even
because when you say it.
Wait, where's it a dirty word? Don't say the M word. Don't say it. It's a really bad word. It starts with M and it says masculinity.
Nothing in my heart feels anything. It's just a word. It's just a. Right. I don't think anything I do is because I'm a man. I think that it's because of who I am.
Yeah. Well,
Let's hear it.
I think to your point, asking like, why would any man be a feminist? So I just think that we don't all view feminism the way you do. Similar to the way the Black Lives Matter movement has been moved and changed and developed in terms of the way that people identify it, the things that you speak about when you talk about third wave feminism is not what I mean when I say that I am a male feminist. And so, yeah, no, if you can't understand that me wanting to make the world a more equal and level playing field for my two daughters, for my wife, for my mother and my mother-in-law, and standing in front of people who want to take liberties away from them, that's the reason why I am a male feminist.
So I say this pretty much every time we have conversations about feminism, but first of all, I don't call myself a feminist. It's just, it's become associated with so much cringe. I just would rather not get into that, you know? I just don't want to label myself that way. But a lot of the times, feminism nowadays is so complicated and misunderstood, not just because there are a lot of shitty representatives of third wave feminism, which is true, but also because the goals of third wave feminism are far more focused on pursuing social equality. So back in the olden days, right, before women could vote, it was pretty easy to be a feminist then, because you just say, here's a law that says I can't vote, but I should be allowed to vote, so change the law. It was very black and white, cut and dry, easy to understand. But now we've moved on, because it's true that women do, for the most part, have equal legal rights. I can't think of any legal right that a man has that a woman doesn't. Legal equality for women has largely been achieved here in this country, which is a great thing. But now it's a focus on social equality. That's where the complicated conversations around subconscious bias comes in. Why is it that women don't pursue certain career paths? Is it really because they're just naturally seeking other things? Or is there a social element here? Why do women not get paid as much or get offered as much if they have children, as opposed to when men have children and they get offered far more during the job interview process? There are different subconscious biases that play a role in negatively impacting women. And so I think that it's really important to focus on that and also have some good examples of how that is playing out. That's why I love that study that I referenced now multiple times about the mother applying for a job as opposed to the father applying for the job, and the fact that the mother was offered less salary than A, a man who was childless, and then B, the father was offered more money than both the woman and the childless man, shows that there's an obvious bias there. There's a perception that women aren't really good for the job, you know? She should be at home with the kids. And then for men, they want to get the job. No one's thinking this man should be at home with the kids. They're thinking, yeah, he's a provider. He's got to provide, bro. Let's give him an extra little bump, okay? A little bonus here. And this happens frequently. So it's a lot of nuance. And it's important to recognize these subtle ways that subconscious bias can have a very real impact on women today. And that's kind of what feminism is focused on nowadays, which, again, is far more difficult to explain. It's harder to get people on board because, well, it's a complicated subject.
Perpetuation of oppression that I'm trying to dismantle.
And for me, I think we're taking this from a very heteronormative perspective, right?
No.
All of my friends aren't straight women.
No! Okay. That's another one. Okay, don't say patriarchy and don't say heteronormative.
So I'm not going to look at my non-binary or LGBTQ friends and be like, oh, just because I can't have sex with you, I'm not going to fight for your rights. There is no personal gain for just saying that we should be there.
True. I agree with you. And I think a lot of us agree on what we're talking about. It's just these labels are in the way of getting us to that.
It's also a blanket statement.
One thing to build on top of too is, to an extent, leading men to want to take advantage of women is the very pressure put on by other men.
Yeah.
That if you're not sleeping around, if you're not getting laid, you aren't. And that doesn't come from women, at least from my experience.
That's
and
patriarchal culture.
If men were a little bit like so, I'll say this now. I didn't lose my virginity till I was 22. Now I'm fine with that. If you ask me at 21 how I felt about that, I would change the subject as quickly as I possibly could because I was ashamed.
They make movies about it.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, I was ashamed of it, but that's part of the patriarchy.
This is gonna be the last.
I mean, that is true that there are definitely certain expectations, again, surrounding masculinity. A lot of men themselves do uphold these negative views around masculinity as well. I just don't like when it moves away from, hey, sometimes men are upholding these bad expectations for other men, and it's actually hurting men as a collective. I hate when it moves from that to, well, men are upholding the patriarchy and the bad stereotypes and the bad expectations, so it's just the fault of men, you know? Maybe we should see women now argue. The anti-feminist women's, the whammons.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. If you're a woman, you should be a feminist.
I think the concept of anti-feminism is like counterintuitive as a woman.
At the end of the day, it's taking a look at patriarchal systems and seeing the flaws in those systems and how they negatively impact everyone.
I pause on that thought. Can the disagreeers step forward?
The Disagreeers. It sounds like a band name, doesn't it? The Disagreeers. Oh wait, I didn't realize Ariel Scarcella was in this. So they just went to the local mental institution and made sure they had proper representation? Okay.
Define woman. Go, please. One of you.
A person who...
Listen up. Man, Ariel Scarcella, coming in hot. Listen up. Hey, you, Oxford. Define woman now.
Their internal idea of what they are is a woman.
Terrible definition. Coming from a lesbian, that destroys the very concept of our sexual orientation. Just saying that it's an idea.
Why?
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 Because you can't be connected and sexually attracted to somebody's brain.
Let's make sure to keep it to the prompt. If you're a woman, you should be a feminist.
Wait, what? Aren't you kind of attracted to people's brain? Like, doesn't that have something to do with if you're attracted to them? How they talk, how they dress, how they act, their personality? Okay, that doesn't make sense either. Man, I just want to fuck your brain. Oh, yeah.
Iran. People on the feminist side right now are not speaking up for those Iranian women. I have a friend that is a trans woman living in Iran right now. It's miserable. Nobody stands up for that poor girl.
As a woman, I particularly think...
What? This is such a shit argument. Did you know right now on this minuscule tropical island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, women don't have the right to vote? Where are the feminists for this one? Yes, of course, some women overseas are treated horribly. Trans people overseas are treated horribly. This is something that should be discussed. But this idea that you're a feminist and because you don't talk about overseas issues, that somehow discredits the fact that you are a feminist is ridiculous. Obviously, you are going to focus the most on issues that have the highest likelihood of affecting you directly, specifically you and your country. To be fair, Iran is not a minuscule island. Wait, I know. Okay, in case anybody misunderstood me, I'm not saying Iran is a minuscule island, okay? I'm just saying that they do this form of argumentation a lot.
I'm a humanist. For example, 2 years ago, I was a raging feminist, and I made a decision to pivot my platform, teach Black women how to sit in our feminine energy because we've never experienced that.
Well, that just sounds like Black feminism to me, teaching women how to do that.
sit in our feminine energy. Okay, I don't have anything to say. Just what's your sign? You do do you do the astrology as well?
In the time that we are in now. But we're not learning fast enough. We deserve to rest. We deserve to relax. We deserve to choose if we want to be a traditional wife. I went from law to being a CEO to now I just want to be a housewife. And every time I say that, I get so much hate. Like, women work so hard to get to this point. Why do you want to be a housewife? Because
that's what you
my
want.
choice.
That's what you want. That's the whole
Feminism is all about.
But that can very fully be encompassed by feminism. I mean, I make this argument all the time that it's not so much women should work or women should be at home with the kids. It's pursue the life that you want.
About choice. Exactly. What can I choose? That's the whole point of feminism. It's like, what can I choose? What are you missing in America to claim that you are oppressed as a woman?
Well, we just had our rights to our own uteruses stripped away.
The right to murder your baby, though. I mean,
it's not a baby; it's a clump of cells.
I mean, we all are clump of cells right here.
I think everybody's going to agree and disagree.
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
a whole.
I don't know if that's another topic. That's another topic.
I had a very, very hard time.
The clump of cells argument is shitty, by the way. Don't use that argument, okay?
Equal rights. We want equality as women, of course.
But how can you have equal rights when you can't define the word woman on the far left?
Ulta had a Women's Day recently, and the Women's Day was celebrated by 2 trans women who still had their male parts. I mean, you're pushing women out of womanhood.
I'm sure we're gonna have discussions about whether or not a trans woman is a woman, but
Okay, cool. So there we go. Yeah, this is just the flawed belief that woman is synonymous with certain biological characteristics when it's just not. Female is, but not woman. Could you explain why the clump of cells argument is bad? Because like the other girl said, we kind of are all clumps of cells. This it's just a clump of cells, bro. I think a much more compelling argument is sentience.
There's an issue with categorizing womanhood as a means of female. Earlier, it was mentioned by somebody on the anti-trans side about trans women coming in and taking over sports and things like that, which is just not true.
That is true.
It's not.
It is.
It's
I can
not.
show you a number of cases.
There
might be people that also haven't.
No, I can show you a number.
Trans women retain 30% of their biological advantage.
That is not
if
true.
they went through male puberty. Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
That is not.
Let's not argue with it. That's not even the prompt. We're not going to argue about that.
Because you're wrong.
If you are a trans woman and you walk out in the world and you are seen as a man, you do not belong in women's spaces. I don't care what anybody says. I think that's ridiculous, and I think even
this argument, if you're a man, you don't belong in women's spaces, is also kind of anti-man in a way. It's almost like this just weird assumption that men are all just creepy, rapey predators. When, I mean, come on, that's like only half of us guys, okay? We're not all like this.
Trans women that have gender dysphoria that go through transition will agree with me.
This makes me so incredibly uncomfortable that we're even having this conversation.
You could go back over there if you really wanted to.
Ooh.
I don't know how much of this has been edited, but like Ariel Scarcella wouldn't let the other person talk. And then this is a shit response also. Just, this is making me uncomfortable. Then why the fuck did you show up on a Jubilee panel where you know you're gonna be arguing with a bunch of people that don't agree with you? What?
Classify people. It also makes sense to socially classify people. Let's say my friend Blair White was sitting right here. That's my buddy. I love her. She's sitting right here. Do I think she lives her life as a man? No. Like we were talking about men making decisions for women as far as abortions are concerned. That's something she'll never experience.
There are women who biologically cannot produce.
So this is the other really stupid fuck turf argument. Oh, well, being a woman is more so not just biology, it's also the experience. You don't experience everything the same way. First and foremost, every single human being has their own unique experience. This isn't just like women have some collective experience that defines them as being a woman. That's bizarre. Second of all, what if you had somebody who, let's say they had gender dysphoria at the age of, 8, and then they went on hormones, they transitioned, everything. They basically lived their life as a woman, identifying as a woman and presenting as a woman. Would that person be a woman, Ariel Scarcella? Because now they have this experience of being a woman. They have an experience of how society treats women. Would they be a woman? Something tells me Ariel Scarcella would still say no.
Females, people assigned female at birth, who biologically cannot produce. Are you saying that those female women should not be able to have say in those laws?
That's not what I'm saying at all. I guess my main issue with trans women being seen as women and not being seen as trans women is they're changing the definition of women and expecting everybody to go along with that. And that affects me, yes they are, and that affects me directly. You say trans women are women, trans women are trans women. It's a very different experience.
Trans women are women.
What? Who cares if it's a different experience? There's not one woman here that has the same experience.
We're just going to agree to disagree with that. If you ask feminists at a women's march what a woman is, they can't even define it. How can you protect something and empower something that you don't even know the actual definition of?
What do trans women take away from women in the feminist movement?
The definition of words and what that means and how that affects us directly.
Can you expand on that?
Yes, when you change the word woman, legally it has implications. Sexually it has implications.
But the word woman has changed throughout histories throughout different cultures. Indigenous people have had different genders, different ways of looking at gender. The Torah specifically has 8 different genders, and we have recognized that for over 3,000 years. You're denying anybody's culture that does not agree with your perception and your worldview because you hold so highly onto your identity and you see it as an attack on who you are.
On sexual orientation.
Feminists as a
But
whole,
it's nothing to do with sexual
It has exactly to do with sex. When you change the word woman and a lesbian is a woman that is attracted to women, how is that not directly affecting us?
Guys, listen, I don't want to assume, but I think Ariel Scarcella might be a lesbian. I don't know. In this case, you're just attracted to females then. It ain't that complicated, boo. It ain't that difficult.
What defines a woman is being born with biological women's parts, and that is what a woman is.
It's okay. We're all grown-ups here. You can say vagina or pussy. It's okay.
And trans women are individuals who choose to live their lives as women, and I honor that.
Oh shit. She got into a little yikesy territory there. Choose to live their... Not every trans woman is choosing this. There's something a lot more innate to trans women than just like they're choosing it.
Everyone deserves dignity and respect, and I mean that. But at the same time, there are...
Everybody deserves dignity and respect, you know? I'm just not going to literally respect your actual identity and going to assume it's a choice. Okay, yes, lady. Please continue with your virtue signaling.
Universal truths, and we have, as a society, gotten to this confusing tangled place where there's your truth, your truth, your truth, your truth. There is one objective truth in what we are.
Can you explain to me the women in Guatemala?
There's not one... Hold on. Before I say something stupid. Okay, what do you mean one objective truth? There's some truth that's not objective. Like if it's based on societal constructions, then it by definition is not objective. It can never be objective. So what version of truth? It is an objective fact that there exist humans with vaginas and with penises. That is an objective fact. Because that is true regardless of human perception.
There is one objective truth in what we are.
Can you explain to me the women in Guatemala who are born female, who are assigned female at birth, and then during puberty grow penises?
I can't explain it because I don't know anything about
that. Sounds like an intersex condition.
You try to, I get how feminists always try to tell us how we should live our life. I said I was a raging feminist. She goes, I don't believe that.
I don't see that. I mean, what you've been saying, I can't see any traces of feminism in what you're saying.
My mother is literally...
We heard a lot about your mom, but what about you?
I am a woman. Looking at me, I am a woman. Born and raised a woman. Why are we trying to write women, born biological women, why are you trying to write us out of history?
You guys keep saying that there's a biological...
What? This is bizarre. This is like, she's actually viewing equality like a zero-sum game. As if it's like, now that trans women have equality, cis women are written out of history? I'm gonna look up, hold on, I need to look up too if women in Brazil grow a penis. Girls who grow penises at the age of 12? The fuck? I think this is actually a real thing. Interesting. The girls who grow penises at the age of 12. It's caused by an enzyme deficiency that inhibits testosterone. An estimated 1 in 50 children are born appearing to be girls but grow male genitalia during puberty. What the fuck?
Reality of male and female, scientists do not agree with you.
Scientists that you choose to agree with. I mean, you can find a study and a scientist to back up anything you want to.
This is such cope. You can find a study to back up anything. Yeah, and usually the ones that back up the conservative narrative are either 1, not actually studies, 2, shit studies with bad methodology, or 3, the studies that support the progressive conclusion are usually not just one study. It's usually many different studies that are built upon previous research as well.
I choose to do peer-reviewed studies and not ones that are backed by political agenda. And I'm sorry that my peer-reviewed studies tend to agree with the fact that trans women are women and that biology, it does not exist in a binary. Never has and it never will.
Wrecked. Got him. These weren't nearly as bad as I was expecting. So that's nice. A nice pleasant surprise, you know, when you're all prepped up for mega cringe and you only get a little cringe. It's very, very nice. Well, unfortunately, I got a split already now that my kids are up, and at least we got to go over the videos. That was fun.